After the speech, we got an impressive interview by our favorite MP, Justin Trudeau. Jake Heller reports.
All right, we're sitting here with, I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau, the MP from Papineau. His people just laughed at me, but that's okay. Justin, thanks for seeing us today.
Pleasure, Jake.
No problem. Why did you get into politics?
Listen, it was an extension of what I was trying to do, which is trying to make a difference in the world. First as a teacher, then as an activist and an advocate for youth issues and environmental stuff. You want to try and make as big a difference as you can with the tools you have, regardless of what your career is or what your interests are. And for me, politics was just a potential way for me to make a big difference.
Okay, so it was a potential way to make a big difference. You were thrust into the national spotlight when you eulogized your father. Did you feel any sort of pressure bearing the name Trudeau to enter into the political arena?
Not at that point. I mean, yes, there were a lot of people saying, oh no, he should go into politics right now, but I wasn't ready to go into politics. I wasn't thinking about going into politics at that point. For me, I still had learning and growing to do, and when I did decide to go into politics, I needed to do it the right way, which is to demonstrate that I bring more than just a name, and that's why I picked a really tough fight, both to win the Liberal nomination and then to win the confidence of the people in the general election, and I managed to do that. So I'm pretty comfortable with where I am.
Yes, definitely, and now people are saying you're the next Prime Minister of Canada. What do you say to people who say that?
I have to disagree, because Michael Ignatieff's going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada.
Anytime soon?
Well, we'll have to wait for an election, but yes.
Okay, well that's great. Touting the party line. Do you ever
No,
feel...
it's not so much that. I mean, it's the fact that, look, everybody is always focused on, you know, the good old days. Oh, the father was a good prime minister, according to some, so maybe the son will be too. And what it is that it's absolving of personal responsibility. It's saying, okay, if we just make the right choice, then all of our problems will be solved. And I'm not going to participate in that, because the fact is that we all have to start stepping up collectively. We have to have a good team as a party, but individual Canadians need to understand that it's not just about putting an X on the ballot and having everything repaired for us. We need to be part of a transformation of our Canadian society. And I honestly think that Michael Ignatieff, with his depth, with his experience, with his vast reflections about where we're going as a country within this planet, is going to be an excellent Prime Minister.
So, with that in mind, I think a lot of what you were implying in that answer was getting people involved in the political process, particularly youth. You're very involved with that. Where do you see youth being able to get involved in politics, and why do you think that there's at least a perception of apathy in the youth in Canada?
Well, I think there's a perception of apathy because young people don't particularly pay attention to politics or get involved in politics. But when you actually talk to young people and engage with them, you realize that they're very, very interested in what's happening in the world and in trying to find their way of making a difference. They just don't know that politics is worthy of their efforts to make a difference, because it's just not changing the world nearly enough, or it's not doing the right things, or it's not being bold or visionary enough, which is why they tend to go for single issue causes here and there and really try to focus it. So for me, to be able to get more young people involved in politics, connected with politics, it's not just a goal, it's a means to transforming politics, because when you get a critical mass of young people connected, interested, engaged, voting, you know, activating themselves and their networks, then politics itself will transform.
Transform into what? Where do you see Canada in the 21st century, and in, as you mentioned in your speech earlier today, in a much smaller, globalized world?
I think Canada is a place that should be leading the way in the 21st century. And when you look at the big challenges we're going to be facing as a planet, for me, it's how we get along, you know, despite all of our differences, and how we try and develop a sense of commonality, even though there's such diversity on the planet, and how we manage to succeed on a planet that is, providing us with natural resources and ecosystem services, and we're exploiting it and sometimes abusing of it. So both of those issues are well represented here in Canada. Our capacity to get along, not in spite of our diversity, but because of our diversity, and to be strong that way is a model that we should be sharing with the world, that we can be leading the world in social justice, in engagement, and in responsible communities. On the other hand, the way we make a vast country with energy resources operate environmentally soundly, and know that we have tremendous wilderness to protect, but we also have habits as northern urban dwellers that around making our environmental efficiency a lot better than it is now. If we can get Canada right, then the planet will be able to be gotten right. If we mess up Canada, then there's no hope for the planet.
Okay, we gotta get Canada right, and there's no hope for the planet. So
there you go.
Canada sort of as a model for the rest of the world.
See, people always say, Canada's only, a minimal percentage of greenhouse gas emissions, so why should we be trying to get that right when all the bigger polluters are the ones that really matter? And that's not understanding the fact that Canada is a role model, and if we can generate the solutions that'll make this country prosperous and effective, whether it be on a social level, whether it be on an energy level or on a technology level, the rest of the world will pay attention, will purchase our solutions, and we'll all be better off.
Definitely. You talked a little bit about commonality because of diversity, or finding commonality within diversity. And in your speech earlier today, you talked a little bit about divisive politics and how it's an effective strategy, but once that politician or that party uses divisive tactics to get in power, it has trouble finding common cause with the greater population. With that in mind, what to you does it mean to be Canadian?
Well, listen, I mean, that's the big question. Because there is no, superficial Canadian identity, we spend all our time going, oh, what is our identity? Canadian identity is very, very clear. It's just not based on anything so superficial as skin color, even shared history, or background, or religion, or language. Canadian identity is based around a core set of values that we all put forward and live by, around respect for justice, compassion, generosity, willingness to work hard, a willingness to be there for each other, a respect for differences, and an openness to each other. These are the things that define us as a country from one end to the other. And those common elements that make a Canadian culture that is different from anywhere else around the world is what our identity is. And we don't spend enough time talking about that or celebrating that. And the more our leaders begin to do that, the more we'll find ourselves. We've got a big anniversary coming. In 7 years, 8 years from now, 7 years from now, we'll be in 2017, which is our 150th birthday. And the question of what is it that we want to be celebrating at that birthday? Who are we? What are we? What do we stand for? Where are the big dreams that we have? These are the questions that people can come together on if politicians make an effort not to divide, but to unite.
That was a very good answer. We've been asking a lot of people that question, and we get a lot of stutters and mutters because it is such a convoluted question, because we do have a trouble finding that sort of holistic identity, not the divisive identity. We are not Americans. So it'd be interesting to see where we end up in 7 years now. But quickly, going back in time, you were a McGill student. What was your experience like at McGill?
I had a great time,
you can tell us honestly.
No, I really did.
Okay.
Come on, it's McGill. Of course I had a great time. As a Montrealer at McGill, it's a really interesting dynamic because people are coming from all around the country, all around the world to come play in your backyard, and you get to be, host of Montreal. You get to, you get to appreciate your city through the eyes of people who are discovering it for the first time. And I think my time at McGill really made me fall in love with this city more than just about ever before.
That's great. So you're throwing big parties in the Trudeau home?
No, not so much. I was more throwing the parties or being at the parties out on Saint Laurent.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for talking with us.
Real pleasure.
Once again, Justin Trudeau.